She survived a childhood so poor, her family used to say they made mud pies to fill their stomachs. She turned a $500 seed of self-belief into a $650 million empire. She wrote a song in 20 minutes that would go on to earn her more money than almost any song in music history. She gave away over 300 million books to children who might have never owned one otherwise. And on August 25, 2026, the world lost her. Dolly Parton, the backwoods Barbie, the queen of country, the woman who once said, "It costs a lot of money to look this cheap," died at 80 years old in Nashville, Tennessee, surrounded by the people who loved her. But here's what most headlines won't tell you. The last 4 days of Dolly Parton's life tell a story more powerful than almost anything she sang. A story of grief, of quiet strength, and of a woman who, even while dying, was still thinking about everyone but herself. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll understand not just how Dolly Parton died, but why the entire world stopped to grieve her. The warning signs. Let's rewind. Because Dolly's death didn't come out of nowhere, and if you were paying close attention, she'd actually been telling us, gently, for almost a year. It started in September 2025. Dolly posted a message to her fans on Instagram. She didn't panic anyone. She didn't even name what was wrong. She simply wrote that she was dealing with some health challenges, and that her doctors told her she needed a few procedures. Classic Dolly. Even in a moment of vulnerability, she managed to make it sound like she was reassuring us, not the other way around. Then came March 2025, and this is the piece of the puzzle that changes everything. Dolly's husband of nearly 60 years, Carl Dean, passed away. The two had met outside a laundromat in Nashville when Dolly was just 18 years old, on her very first day in the city. Carl famously stayed out of the spotlight his entire life. You'd almost never see him in photos, at award shows, on red carpets. But behind the scenes, he was reportedly the steady, quiet anchor to Dolly's dazzling, larger-than-life persona. Losing him after nearly 6 decades together broke something in her. And here's the part that's almost hard to hear. Dolly later admitted that while she was taking care of Carl in his final months, she completely stopped taking care of herself. By early 2026, at the seasonal opening of Dollywood, her beloved theme park, Dolly told fans she was still dealing with a few little health issues. She said she was taking time to rebuild herself spiritually, emotionally, and physically. Then, just 10 days before she died, Dolly canceled a scheduled appearance at Dollywood for the opening of a new attraction. Her team cited dehydration and dizziness, nothing alarming on the surface, but looking back now, it was one more quiet signal that something bigger was happening beneath the surface. The final interview. And this brings us to the interview that, tragically, would become one of Dolly Parton's very last. Published by People magazine on August 21st, just 4 days before her death, Dolly opened up in a way she rarely had before. She confirmed she'd been hospitalized, admitted to Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville. She talked candidly about grief, about aging, about the toll the last year and a half had taken on her body. And she said something that in hindsight feels almost like a message she left for all of us. She explained that she'd been dealing with health issues she simply hadn't paid attention to, because she'd been so focused on watching over Carl in his final chapter. Think about that for a second. One of the most famous, most beloved, most resourced entertainers on the planet, a woman with access to the best doctors in the world, put her own health second so she could care for her husband. That's not just a celebrity story. That's a deeply, achingly human one. It's the story of countless caregivers around the world who quietly sacrifice themselves for the people they love. But Dolly didn't want sympathy. In that same interview, she pushed back against the narrative that she was fragile or fading. She pointed out something surprisingly sharp and self-aware, that she'd been through hard times with her health plenty of times before in her 7-decade career. The difference now, she said, is that we live in a 24/7, always online world where every health scare gets magnified and spun into a crisis in ways it never used to be. It's a strikingly modern observation from an 80-year-old icon, proof that Dolly wasn't just beloved, She was still sharp, still self-possessed, still completely in control of her own narrative right up until the very end. And then came the line that fans are now holding on to tightly.
Everybody said, well, you're 80 years old. You're going to be 80 years old. I said, well, so what? Look at all I've done in 80 years. I just feel like I'm just getting started. I know that sounds stupid, but I think there's a lot to be said about age. If you allow yourself to get old, you will. And people say, well, how come you don't seem to get old? I said, because I ain't got time to get old. I ain't got time to dwell on that. That's not what I'm thinking about. I think, what? I'm going to be 80? They're going to celebrate me being 80? You know, not that anybody would want to celebrate that, but there is a celebration in the fact that I have done so much in that time and that I'm still doing it. I'm grateful for that. I've told you before, all my fans, that I've had a few little health issues, and sometimes I get a little dizzy and I get dehydrated. And I'm dehydrated. And so my Nashville doctor has kind of clipped my wings saying, you ain't traveling this week. So I guess if your doctor tells you you ain't traveling this week, you ain't traveling this week. But I like to keep all of you in the loop, like I said I would, on everything. So, all is going well on the medical end of things, and I continue working away on all of our other projects, like the Songteller Hotel and my Life of Many Colors Museum here in Nashville, and my Broadway musical in New York, and that has taken a lot of time. But let's just say I've talked enough about me, don't you think? Eugene, won't you talk about me for a while? I'm just kidding. I do want you to tell everybody about our great new ride, Night Flight Expedition, and you have fun, and I will see you down the road.
Despite everything, the hospitalization, the grief, the exhaustion, Dolly told People magazine that even though she was still healing, she was still working, 4 days before she died. That single sentence tells you almost everything you need to know about who Dolly Parton was. She wasn't performing invincibility for the cameras. She was simply, truly, that woman. The one who once wrote two of the biggest songs in American music history, Jolene and I Will Always Love You, on the very same day. The one who showed up to work, no matter what. The final hours. On Friday, August 21st, Dolly was admitted to Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville. Just 4 days later, on Tuesday, August 25th, she passed away. Her publicist later confirmed what fans feared. Dolly died at the Vanderbilt-Ingram Cancer Center, surrounded by her loved ones, after what her team described as a brief battle with cancer. It's worth sitting with that phrase, a brief battle, because for months, the public had been given softened, careful language, health issues, a few procedures, dehydration. It's now clear that Dolly and her team had been carrying something far heavier than any of us realized, and doing it with the same grace and privacy she'd shown her entire career. The news broke to the world through a video posted to Dolly's official Instagram on August 25th. It wasn't a press release, it wasn't a statement from a publicist reading off a card. It was her nephew, Brian Seaver, speaking directly to the camera on behalf of the Parton family. His words were simple, devastating, and beautiful all at once. He said that Dolly had lived in the light and was now in the arms of Jesus, surely met, he said, by Carl, by her parents, and by the countless others who had watched over her and longed for her to join them. It's the kind of statement that stops you in your scroll, not corporate, not distant, just a family, grieving out loud, letting the whole world grieve alongside them. The official family obituary followed shortly after, and it captured her spirit perfectly, describing her as living a rhinestone life that shone bright enough for the world to see, and saying she would forever stand as an inspiration, not just through her music, but through her wit, her warmth, and the kindness that made millions of strangers feel like family. And in one final, quintessentially Dolly move, the family asked that instead of sending flowers, people donate to her imagination library. Even in the announcement of her death, Dolly Parton was still finding a way to give. From dirt poor to Dollywood, the legend now. To really understand why this loss has hit so hard, you have to understand exactly who Dolly Parton was, because country singer barely scratches the surface. She was born in 1946 in a one-room cabin in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. the fourth of 12 children. Her family was, in her own words, dirt poor. Her father couldn't read or write. That single detail, her father's illiteracy, would go on to shape one of the most important legacies of her entire life. But we'll get to that. Dolly started performing as a child, and by 18, she'd moved straight to Nashville the day after graduating high school, the same day, as it happens, that she met Carl Dean outside that laundromat. From there, her rise became the stuff of legend. Over more than 6 decades in the industry, Dolly wrote an estimated 3,000-plus songs. She sold more than 100 million records worldwide. She holds 10 Guinness World Records, including the record for the longest span of #1 country hits by any female artist in American history, and her songwriting, almost unmatched. Jolene, one of the most covered songs in American music. I Will Always Love You, a song she wrote about Porter Wagoner, which she refused to sell to Elvis Presley when he wanted to record it, because his manager demanded half the publishing rights. She said no to the king himself. Years later, that same song became Whitney Houston's signature anthem, and one of the best-selling singles of all time. That decision alone is estimated to have earned Dolly tens of millions of dollars, all because she trusted her own instincts over a legend's request. She crossed over into Hollywood too, starring in 9 to 5, a film so beloved it later became a stage musical she also wrote the music for. She won Emmy nominations for her TV movies. Her final Grammy came in 2021 for a contemporary Christian song called There Was Jesus. She was even nominated again this past year for narrating her own audiobook. And then there's Dollywood, the theme park she built in her home region of Sevier County, Tennessee, which became the single most visited ticketed attraction in the entire state. But if you ask people who knew her best, none of that, not the records, not the Grammys, not the box office numbers, was what she was most proud of. The giving heart. In 1988, Dolly started something called the Dollywood Foundation, aimed at reducing the high school dropout rate in the county where she grew up. She personally promised $500 out of her own pocket to every 7th and 8th grader who stayed in school and graduated. It's called the Buddy Program. The result? The dropout rate in that county collapsed from 35% all the way down to just 6%. Then, in 1995, she launched what would become her true legacy, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. She created it in honor of her father, the man who never learned to read. The program mails a free, age-appropriate book to registered children every single month, from the day they're born until they turn 5 years old. It started in one county in Tennessee. By the time of her death, it had expanded across the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and Ireland, and had placed more than 332 million free books into children's hands. Let that number sit with you. 332 million books. Given away, for free, to kids who might otherwise never have owned one. Her giving didn't stop there. When wildfires tore through the Great Smoky Mountains in 2016, Dolly created the My People Fund, personally donating $1,000 a month to every family who lost their home. In 2020, in the middle of a global pandemic, she gave $1 million to Vanderbilt University Medical Center, the very hospital where she would later be treated and ultimately pass away, to help fund COVID-19 vaccine research. In 2022, she was awarded the Carnegie Medal of Philanthropy, an honor so prestigious it's often called the Nobel Prize of Giving. And just last November, in 2025, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences gave her the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award, spotlighting a lifetime spent quietly, relentlessly giving back. She once said something that, now, feels almost like a mission statement for her entire life, that if she could just do her small part in the world, that's all she'd ever ask. That the Imagination Library was the thing she was most proud of, and that she simply hoped she could keep doing good things. She did, right up until the very end. What she leaves behind. So when we talk about how Dolly Parton died, it's tempting to focus only on the hospital, the diagnosis, the timeline. But that's not really the story, is it? The real story is a woman who lost the love of her life after 58 years together, quietly put her own health aside to care for him, and then, even while grieving, even while dying, still showed up. Still wrote, still gave, still worked. A woman who turned a childhood of poverty into an empire worth over $500 million, and then spent decades giving huge portions of it straight back to the people who needed it most. A woman who, even in her final public statement to the world, made a joke about social media magnifying everything because she knew, better than almost anyone alive, exactly how to read a room, right up until her very last days. Dolly Parton didn't just sing about faith, family, and resilience. She lived it, in front of us, for over 60 years. And then she asked us, one final time, to skip the flowers and instead give a child a book. If Dolly's story moved you today, do her one favor. Consider donating to the Imagination Library. It's exactly what she would have wanted. Rest easy, Dolly. Thank you for the music, the laughter, and for showing an entire world what it looks like to give until the very end.